The film begins at a venue hosting a lively party. With music playing, the guests dance joyfully. However, the atmosphere suddenly shifts when a blaring alarm siren sounds. Panic ensues as everyone scrambles in chaos. Elsewhere, German soldiers begin advancing to attack enemy territory in a dense forest. Unbeknownst to them, the enemy is already lying in wait, setting a trap. The German soldiers are ultimately captured and taken as prisoners of war, forced into unpaid labor. Among the prisoners is a German soldier named Bert Trautmann. He is approached by a bald-headed inmate who is a Nazi member. Bert is then assigned to share a bunk with a man named Richard. Out of fear of the bald man's threats, Bert is forced to wear a religious amulet necklace on his chest. The next day, Bert is summoned for interrogation by a sergeant named Smythe due to suspicions of his involvement in a Nazi plan. As punishment, Smythe orders Bert to clean the soldiers' barrack toilets. After completing his task, Bert shares a tip with Richard on how to get cigarettes inside the prison camp. He boasts that he can stop any ball kicked toward the goal he guards, using his talent as a wager. Meanwhile, a beautiful woman named Margaret, a man named Jack appears at the scene. Jack is one of the food suppliers for the camp. By chance, he witnesses Bert's skills as a goalkeeper and begins to take an interest in his abilities. Curious, Margaret decides to take part by betting a pack of cigarettes. At the same time, Jack turns out to be the coach of the worst football club in town. The team is led by a captain named Bill, and one of their worst players is Alf, who also happens to be their goalkeeper. That night, Jack is forced to break up a party attended by his players, as they have an important match the next day. However, Alf, who is playing the drums at the party, refuses to follow his coach's orders, frustrating Jack. Elsewhere, tensions rise again at the British prisoner of war camp. A soldier orders the prisoners to gather immediately. Sergeant Smythe announces that Germany has surrendered and that the prisoners will be relocated for re-education, except for those who are war criminals, meaning Nazi members. The next morning, Jack returns to the military camp and bribes a colonel with a box of cigars so he can borrow Bert to play as the goalkeeper for his football club. At first, Bert refuses to join the club. However, upon learning that he would otherwise be sent back to the British POW camp, he reluctantly agrees to Jack's request. Upon arriving at the match venue, the players are shocked to see their coach bringing in a German to join them. They immediately reject Bert's presence. However, Jack firmly states that if they want to win, they have no other choice, especially since Alf, their previous goalkeeper, was the worst player on the team. Feeling insulted, Alf storms off, taking his dog Betsy with him. After the match ends, Jack quickly drives Bert back to the British military camp. As he steps out of the car, Bert asks Jack to take him out of the camp more often if he wants him to keep playing for the club. However, back home, Jack faces opposition from his family for recruiting a former German soldier into his football club. Jack remains unapologetic, arguing that Bert's presence led the team to victory. He even plans to employ Bert at his grocery store starting the next day. Upon arriving at the store, Margaret seems slightly uneasy about Bert's presence. She instructs him to enter through the basement door to keep customers from noticing him. It appears that Margaret is beginning to develop feelings for Bert. Meanwhile, Margaret's best friend, Betsy, learns that a German is working at Margaret's father's store. She immediately goes to Margaret and warns her to be careful around Bert. Outside the store, Bert attempts to strike up a conversation with Margaret's younger sister, Barbara. At first, Barbara is forbidden from speaking to Bert, but she eventually gets tricked and unknowingly starts chatting with him. Margaret quickly steps outside and orders her sister to leave. Bert recalls Margaret's words and chooses to focus on his football training. He soon begins leading his team to victory in several matches. In addition, Bert frequently plays with Barbara and even makes her a pair of stilts. Seeing his kindness, Margaret starts to soften toward him and finally offers him a warm smile. One day, Bert notices the team captain, who happens to be Margaret's boyfriend. His face immediately falls into a frown. However, his mood lifts when Jack hands him a pack of cigarettes. The next day, Bert returns to the store for work. He briefly chats with Margaret before Bill, her boyfriend, arrives and warns Bert not to mess with his partner. However, Bert pays little attention to the threat. Instead, he showcases his skills during a match, trying to capture Margaret's attention. Back at the British military camp, Bert and the other prisoners are shown a simple outdoor film depicting the past atrocities of the Nazis. The footage instantly triggers Bert's painful memories from his time in the Nazi military camp. He remembers playing football with his friends when a young boy approached them, asking for his ball back. Instead of returning it, a soldier shot the boy. Elsewhere, Richard, Bert's friend, attacks the bald-headed Nazi inmate. Later, Bert is assigned to toilet cleaning duty. However, inside the public restroom, he is horrified to find Richard's lifeless body hanging. Enraged and believing Sergeant Smythe is responsible, Bert attempts to attack him. As a result of the incident, the prisoners are ordered to be sent back to their home countries. The decision leaves Jack bewildered. At the store, Margaret is visited by her friend Betsy. However, in a sour mood, Margaret drives her away. Shortly after, she is shocked when Bert shows up at her house. Jack has invited him as an honored guest for a week until the next match. Bert is welcomed with a lavish dinner, treated like part of the family. He feels a sense of acceptance and warmth he has never experienced before. He is even given Barbara's bed to sleep in. On the day of the big match, a man named Jock Thompson arrives at the stadium. He is the coach of one of England's top clubs, Manchester City. With the score tied at halftime, Jack notices Jock's presence, fueling his team's determination. Curious about Jock Thompson's intentions, Jack asks Bert about it. Bert reveals that Jock wants him to join Manchester City for a trial. After the match, the team celebrates their victory at a small town bar. During the party, Bert and Margaret exchange glances but hesitate to approach each other. Eventually, Bert chooses to dance with another girl, while Margaret watches him silently from her seat. As a romantic song plays, Bert can no longer hold back his feelings. He finally gathers the courage to ask Margaret to dance with him. However, the moment does not go unnoticed by Bill. Bill immediately orders Margaret to leave and challenges Bert to a duel in the rain. He proposes a penalty shootout to determine who deserves Margaret. However, Bert deliberately lets the ball pass, stating that Margaret will choose him no matter what. Believing he will soon be sent back to Germany, Bert plans to spend his last moments with Margaret. However, Jack catches him and orders him back to his room. Not giving up, Bert tries again for a second time, only to be caught by Jack once more. Jack then invites Bert for a drink in the kitchen. Realizing that Bert truly loves his daughter, Jack explains something that makes Bert reflect deeply. No matter what, he will always be a German in a community still scarred by war. As Bert returns to his room, he is surprised to find Margaret already waiting for him. Sometime later, they marry, and Bert officially joins Manchester City as a player. Bert soon attends a press conference with coach Jock Thompson. One by one, journalists begin questioning him, but the discussion quickly shifts to his past as a German soldier who once fought against their country. During the session, it is revealed that Bert received the Iron Cross medal while serving in the German army. The Iron Cross was one of the highest honors awarded by Hitler during World War II. This revelation causes Margaret to question why her husband possesses such a medal. During a match against Arsenal, massive protests erupt. Demonstrators demand Bert's removal from Manchester City. Coach Jock Thompson motivates his team, urging them to stand by each other no matter what. A leading rabbi from the Jewish community also publicly condemns Bert's presence at the club. Inside the stadium, Bert is bombarded with insults from spectators, causing him to lose focus during the game. On the way home, he is even physically attacked by a protester. As tensions escalate, Manchester City's executives hold an emergency meeting to discuss Bert's future with the team. Margaret and her father attend the meeting to defend Bert. Margaret insists that Bert never had a choice when he was a German soldier. She pleads with them not to blame someone for war crimes committed by the Nazi regime. However, her words fail to calm everyone's anger. Then one day, a city newspaper publishes a statement from a rabbi announcing that the Jewish community has withdrawn their condemnation. They declare they will not judge someone for war crimes they did not commit. As time passes, Bert's performances on the field continue to elevate his reputation. He and Margaret welcome a baby boy, bringing even more joy into their lives. One day, during a match against Birmingham City with over 100,000 spectators filling the stadium, Bert and his team engage in an intense battle. Both teams exchange goals in a thrilling contest. Bert successfully defends against numerous attacks, helping his team take the lead with a score of 3-1. The crowd chants his name in the grand stadium. However, with only 20 minutes left in the match, Bert suffers a severe injury, forcing the medical team to carry him off the field on a stretcher. While recovering in the hospital, Bert is haunted once again by the memory of the young boy who was killed in the past. Guilt overwhelms him as he regrets not doing anything to save the child. A few days later, Bert calls his wife from the hospital. As they talk, their son suddenly asks for permission to buy ice cream. Unbeknownst to them, that day would turn into their worst nightmare. His son is struck by a car. At his son's funeral, Bert unexpectedly reunites with Sergeant Smythe, who offers his condolences. Smythe also reveals that his wife and 2 daughters were killed in a Nazi bombing years ago. He encourages Bert to continue playing football in honor of his son's memory. However, feeling lectured, Bert becomes enraged and attacks Sergeant Smythe. A fight breaks out in the middle of the funeral. Afterward, Sergeant Smythe returns a necklace that once belonged to Bert. Shockingly, it turns out to be the same necklace that belonged to the young boy who was shot by Bert's fellow soldier years ago. Bert is consumed with even deeper guilt. In front of his wife, Margaret, he finally confesses the burden that has been tormenting him. He tells her that their son's death is karma for failing to save the young boy in the past. However, Margaret refuses to accept that reasoning. With firm resolve, she tells Bert that he must choose, either continue living and fighting for their future, or give up and follow their son in death. Though grief still weighs heavily on Bert, he realizes that he must make a choice, remain trapped in guilt or fight for what lies ahead. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe as this channel uploads new content every day. See you in the next video.